The Brat Show, inspiring every woman to be bold, relevant, addictive, and transformative.
Welcome to The Brat Show. I'm your host, Kathy Barthel, also known as Bratty Kathy. Today, we're tossing conventional wisdom about money on its head so that you can pursue your mission in the world and get properly paid for it. And so that you'll understand the changes that cryptocurrency is bringing to the marketplace. My guest is Nicola Grace, the mission mentor and visionary who works with global social entrepreneurs who want to create systemic change. She's also the co-host of Conscious Crypto Traders on YouTube. Welcome to the show, Nicola. It's so great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It is good to be here. We had amazing conversations leading up to this interview, so I'm looking forward to getting into it.
Likewise. Now, the idea of being a brat is that a brat is a woman who not only owns who she is and what she's here to do in the world, but she doesn't care if not everybody gets it, if not everybody likes it. But the kind of dark shadow side of that is that as much as she wants to do this great stuff in the world, that doesn't always line up to getting properly paid for it. Yeah. You know, it's kind of that shadow side of us wanting to do good. And I'm wondering, how can brats, as you say, marry their life purpose with the way that they make money? This seems to be those two, silos oftentimes, right? Doing the great stuff in the world and struggling to buy the craft dinner. So how can they marry those two?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it is an important question of our time, I believe. My whole brand is clarify and monetize your mission to change the world, right? So the way I approach it is with, first of all, an attitude shift. And because without that attitude shift, the opportunity or the door doesn't open to how you can link the two together. We've grown up in a society that we have been asked, what are you here to do? Not what you're here to do, rather, what are you going to be when you grow up, rather than what are you here to do? So the monetary system has been primarily focused on making money to survive. Whereas when you go into your purpose, you're wanting to do things to serve, right? So how you marry them together is simply just by firstly opening the mind to the possibility that you can charge more, or that you can receive more for the bigger difference you make. And we have fantastic examples of that. Peter Diamandis, we have Elon Musk, we have my heroine, the Body Shop, Anita Roddick, was really the first social entrepreneur that married activism and purpose with a multi-billion-dollar idea. So if you shift your attitude to think, well, I can make good money by being my purpose. They don't have to dumb down my financial status to fulfill my purpose. You just have that one attitude shift. Then the universe can start bringing you opportunities like the Anita Roddick, $1 billion idea.
Mm-hmm. One of the things you've also said is that, and I love this, that women need to be adoptive mothers regarding money.
Yeah.
Dive into that for me. That is so intriguing.
Well, when you think about the way boys to men grow up, they have so much more pressure on them to succeed in the world, and to succeed in the world of money, not just from, the concept of one day they're going to be fathers and get married and they're going to have to support their family. And, not just from that idea, but within the peer group as well, the peer group of men and the competitiveness they have. So there is a drive in them to make money. We don't have as much testosterone, and we don't have that pressure as women to actually make a lot of money, right? So that isn't there in our thinking. That can be, you talk about a shadow, there's a shadow side to that, a darker side to that. And that is that we become disinterested in money. And in the back of our mind, the man is the financial plan. And any woman who has been through a divorce, right, knows that that's not a good plan.
Nope. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we have to adopt the values of being interested in money, of wanting to have wealth, because those values are not instilled in us by society or by our parents as we grow up, or by our peer group. So if we think about, we don't have to take on the male drive if we don't want to lose our feminine values. We can marry them really beautifully by looking at it as becoming an adoptive mother. I am going to become a mother who is going to adopt the value of money and wealth, so I feel that I can nurture my plan, I can nourish my plan, I can watch it grow, I can watch it become independent and go off and do its own thing, just like a mother.
That is so brilliant, because I have also heard, Nicola, something similar in the sense of we need to nurture our money. You know, when you put money in your bank account, when you pay a bill, you know, I'm making room for new money to come in. And it sounds maybe crazy to think of applying some sort of version of love toward it, might be a stretch, but this caring, this nurturing idea toward money is something so foreign to so many of us. And I think you touched on one part of it too, which is beyond even just women, but certainly women. We see so much corruption in the world around money and the way monetary systems work and everything that's going on. And, you know, there's this idea of, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into that toxic mess. I don't want to be polluted I don't want to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. But that has nothing to do with money. That has to do with the system that's around it. And you said lots of gems in there, so I'll try and remember to dissect them. That was me growing up. Growing up, I did not want to go into the corporate world. I wanted to be a dancer and a singer and an entertainer and go the creative way. And I literally walked away from money until one day I needed it. And I'm like, okay, I better adopt some monetary values here. I think the opposite attitude needs to occur, and that is there is corruption in the monetary system, corruption out there in the world. So therefore we need to get into it and bring our light into it and transform it, which is exactly what social entrepreneurs have been doing. We've been flipping it to say that money is a force for good in the world. I'm going to use money as a force for good in the world. So we've got massive projects happening all around the world that are raising people up out of poverty, that are helping children who've been trafficked out of those situations. So there's massive amounts of change that has been able to occur because the good people have the money and they're using it as a force for good in the world. So again, it's a flip of it's a revolution. It's like just turning everything upside down. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, another aspect that, as I said to you before we got on this call, that I find very indicative of a brat in you is the element of being transformative. And you've certainly transformed, we all have in many, many ways over our lives, but I'm thinking of that time, you know, you transformed, for example, from somebody, as you alluded to a bit there, perhaps, you know, who was doing something that really aligned with her, but maybe not making enough money. And other times making a lot of money, but not really feeling you're living your purpose. And then you had a situation, a great opportunity and a situation where you were, you went in and you created a strategy to help the natural health industry in New Zealand to overcome a new piece of legislation that would have flattened the industry, right? You saved all these millionaires, as we say, and at the same time, your business was flatlining, was going into bankruptcy.
I did not become a millionaire, yeah.
Right. So, stories, as a storyteller myself, as somebody who comes from journalism, and we all just love stories as human beings. I mean, this is what you would call in Hollywood, I suppose, a high concept scenario. We've got quite the contrast here. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what shifted in you personally around money as a result, and also what that shifted in your business in terms of what you saw as an opportunity that you could offer, how you could, make a big difference in the world.
Yeah. I mean, that moment in my life was really pivotal because it set up my whole brand as the mission mentor, how to clarify and monetize your mission to change the world. Is there was a moment where I'm looking at a guy writing a $50,000 check to a lawyer who they'd already given $50,000 to, but never produced results. And I'm sitting there going, but hang on a second, I've already produced these guys' results. How come I'm not getting the $50,000?
Yes.
And it was like this, and I've done a video about it. Like something happened, and I just saw this vision of my brain, and the left and the right hemispheres had this wall between it, where the concept of receiving money for giving value and changing the world and doing something purposeful were completely at odds for each other. And there was a belief under there saying, if you want to serve humanity, it is bad to charge for that. You should be doing that for free, right?
Yeah.
So, and we all know that volunteer organizations are inherently weak because of that attitude, right? Because people that at some stage, they've got to stop doing the amazing work they're doing to go and get a job and, pay their bills. Mm-hmm. So that was like, okay, I'm going to put these two together. And so I started, a consulting brand where I am marrying the two together. And it came at a time following on from Anita Roddick. We had Tom Shoes with Blake McCroskey joining mission and money together and being successful at it. So we started to have more and more of these businesses showing that the both were possible. And so I had some early role models that I could look at putting a strategy together and a monetization plan together.
Yeah. And this is now, as you say, this idea of the split, what do you call this? Split brain hemisphere syndrome. Yeah. I actually looked that up to see. And then of course I got into some science area, talking about the halves of the brain and whatnot, and got myself right out of there and thought, I'm just going to go right to it with Nicola. But it sounded like, what were you saying, that there's the work and the money and the reward kind of on the one side, and the spiritual and the love, and what was the other three? There were like
Purpose.
3 and 3.
Purpose. The left brain. And this happened, that's happened because in the very early days of our society, we go back to feudalism. Our head of our society was the shaman, the medicine man or woman, or the healer. And they would not do work. It was considered dirty because they needed to hold the God force or the God vibration for the whole tribe. So the tribe would go out to work. So that's where the split happened. And in those days, the shamans were, or the medicine men or women, the spiritual guide, were the richest. They had the most adornments on them. They had the biggest tent and so on. So we don't have that value system in our society anymore, but we still have that thinking in the spiritual world that working and money and, being in the workforce with your gift is dirty. You should give it away for free. And that can trip up a lot of spiritual people, and they got to change the mainframe in there, because that is not a value system of a world that we live in anymore.
I hope you're enjoying the episode. If you are, go ahead and click like. And while you're there, click the subscribe button as well so you don't miss another episode. You, as you describe yourself, are a cryptocurrency enthusiast, and you've just very recently started a new YouTube channel with Teresa de Grosbois, the founder of Evolutionary Business Council, and it's called The Conscious Crypto Trader. Yeah. And I believe on there you have like trading strategies, market scenarios, mindset mastery, all these really wonderfully substantive ways for people to understand what is really, for many of us, an ununderstandable. No, I'm an English person, so what am I saying? I can't even speak. Yeah. This is where I go with this. It's an industry that we just feel flummoxed by, right? Most of us, we just don't even understand where to put our pinky toe in. And I'm wondering, this isn't a finance show and we don't have a lot of time, but can you give us a layperson's understanding of what cryptocurrency is, and then take us to what made you so passionate about this? Because, theoretically, you could hire somebody to do the trading for you. You didn't necessarily need to dive into the degree that you have. So can you give us a sense of what is cryptocurrency and where does your passion for this come from?
Yeah, and I want to ask that question, what is cryptocurrency? I mean, in a nutshell, it's a digital file.
Hmm.
So the I want to answer the question by looking at it in terms of what it actually is in history as a mechanism for shifting the monetary system. I did a video in 2009, 2010 saying that we have change precursors showing we're about to go through a massive revolution financially, a whole new paradigm shift whereby money was going to become more decentralized and more democratized. And it was going to come out of the hands of the elite and into the hands of the many. So that's what cryptocurrency is, specifically Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not owned, controlled, or valued by any government or national entity or even any company. So it is completely out there determined, the value is determined by the people who are buying and selling it and its own market cycles. So that is revolutionary. The fact that Walmart has now said we're going to allow you to buy stuff from Walmart using cryptocurrency is the change precursor that shows we're going into mainstream with this. And I think this is really important, especially for women to realize, because at the moment, this is just another industry where women are lagging behind. There are 18 billionaires in the crypto space. I think there's even more now, right, than that, and not one of them is a woman. Right, very few women are millionaires in this space, so we're lagging behind. I think part of it is just because our heads are down, trying to deal with our life and what we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So I think our heads have got to come up and have a look at this is what is actually happening. There is a massive change in our monetary system. Just like in the industrial age, we introduced the concept of capitalization, and out of that came the stock market and all of the innovations from that. We're in a massive innovation period. I got into it because I got scammed out of my Bitcoin.
You what? Say it again. You got what?
Got scammed.
Oh, well, yes, it was a Ponzi scheme or something, right? Was it?
Yeah. And
what was that about?
I knew I had to get into cryptocurrency because this is a future of where we're going. And so I had actually bought Bitcoin way back around about $5 and sold it for $20, thinking I'd made a lot of money. And now Bitcoin, if any of you don't know, is about $58,000 as we started this interview and heading up to 100,000. So I had a client who introduced me and it's kind of like an MLM program that seemed really legitimate. I had a lot of trust and faith in him. He'd made a lot of money. He trusted the CEO, had met the CEO, and everything looked legitimate. The money was, everything was just flowing. You could get your money out really easy until it turned. And then there was it was a South African company, and the FSCA were after them for wanting to prove whether or not they're actually doing live trading and so on, or this was a Ponzi scheme. To this day, we still don't actually know if it was, because the CEO fled the country in fear of being imprisoned. So whether he was innocent or slightly not, or like we just don't know, but we can assume the worst.
Wow, and this didn't put you off of it though.
No, because that's like if I had just bought the Bitcoin and held it, I would have been fine. Mm. But because I gave it to somebody else, and you said, why are you doing this? Because you could just give it to somebody else. That opened the door for me to say, well, I'm not going to trust anybody else in this space. Let me learn about this. And Teresa de Grosbois, as you said, is my next door neighbor. We're here in Costa Rica building an intentional community where there is a lot of people here that are trading in crypto, or trading is just buying and selling, right? Mm.
It's like the stock market, really, in a sense, isn't it? The same principle?
It can be like the stock market, yeah.
But it's not regulated, right?
It is in some countries.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's taxable in most countries, especially the United States. It's not heavily regulated like financial institutions, but it is becoming that way, which is, it's a good thing and a bad thing. It just depends on whether or not you've got a good regulator that's sensible. So then I just started getting interested into myself. And I'm a visionary and a historian. That's my thing that I bring into my my business as a mission mentor. So as a visionary, I see that it's a bridge to the new systems that are going to be coming down the pipeline, and I want to be on that bridge out of the old world into the new world, to the new earth.
Yeah. You call it a world of reciprocity in a giving economy, I think I made a note. That crypto is. Tell us a bit about that.
It's a move away from reciprocity and into a gifting economy. So the change precursor for the gifting economy was the open source community in the 90s, where everybody just wanted to give away their images, give away websites, give away their talents, right? They just wanted to give them.
Yeah.
So that was a change precursor to say, do you know, we've got a percentage of the human population that just wants to give. They want to be on purpose and they want to give. They're not that concerned with reciprocity, i.e. exchange. Let me get money for that. Obviously that shifted and we started to have to pay for our websites and pay for our images and so on. But it was a little glimmer of the future. And so what's happening now with cryptocurrency, and specifically Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is not attached to a corporation or a company or one person that we can know of and put our finger to and say, aha, you created Bitcoin. So specifically with that, there is a determined value by the community. And it's getting away from this. I've got something physical, and here's something physical, and we're going to exchange it. I'm getting this glass for this money. We're getting away from that. And the digitization of the exchange is a step in the direction of eventually not even needing the exchange.
This is wild, because off the top of our conversation, we were talking about women getting paid for what they do and trying to take that, let's say, spiritual giving back kind of mentality with I need to get paid, and marrying those two. And now it's as though the getting paid piece is going to ultimately fall away like some, I don't know, piece of a rocket or something.
Exactly.
And then we will have ideally this, how...
It's a time frame thing, Kathy. Like right now, we need money, right? We have obligations.
Yes.
So right now, the concept of just wanting to give away it's like the spiritual people have that because they see the future, they know the past, they know other alternatives from other systems. So we carry that paradigm in us to shift the paradigm, but the two need to coexist for now. As in, I've got the paradigm of the future, but the future isn't here right now, so I am adopting this paradigm to get me to the future.
Exactly. And there's so much cleanup to be done around how we think of money, right? And how women think of money. So that's going to occupy us, I think, for quite a while between now and we get to the new way of doing things. Yeah. And it reminds me of something that you had said, which was prior to doing the show, which was that the largest group growing into poverty is women 50 plus.
Yeah.
And that, like, I'm getting shivers, but not in a good kind. That's like a complete what?
Yeah.
Kind of
their
moment.
Man is not their financial plan. And I actually rescued somebody off the streets, and it was really, really hard working with her as a woman who was 52, got divorced, lost everything in the divorce because, oh, that's in my husband's name. Oh, my husband took care of that. Oh, I don't know where that bank statement was, or oh, I don't know what we've got assets in. It was like, my husband takes care of that. And in the end, he did not take care of her. Right? So she was literally living in the park. She was a lawyer, right? And this was a time where it was very difficult to get a job. It was just after the 2018-19 crash, right? So she has all of these skills. She has so much to offer, and she is literally living in the park. And then she's got enough money to have a bed in a hotel once a week so she can shower and get ready to go to job interviews and so on. That's how down and out she was. So that's why I went a little researching to go, what the heck is happening? And I found more and more women in that position because their man was their financial plan. And I hear this a lot in my business. Oh, I only need to make 30,000. I don't need to make six figures because my husband makes a lot of money, right? Into COVID and men were losing their jobs. So husband no longer able to support the family. So I think that it is a critical mistake for women to use men as their financial plan and not have their own gig.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I've said my point.
It's amazing that here we are in 2021, in this far into this century, and this is still an issue. It's extraordinary. When we think, though, just to back up a little bit to thinking about, as you say, at last count, 18 billionaires as a result of crypto and engagement with Bitcoin and so on, which has traditionally been a younger guy's game, as we would say, probably. In
millennial men, millennial nerdy men.
And we love them dearly.
Part of their community all day.
Yeah. Exactly. But now that this is, I see what you're doing with Teresa in your show and so on, and getting the education out as being obviously a great benefit for many people, but specifically for women. Are you looking primarily at helping women of that sort of group that are 45, 50 plus who really need to step things up and get into things that they might be afraid of and learn?
All human beings. And we interview all of those millennial nerdy men. All human beings. We don't have a brand specifically for women, but we have a passion to bring women into the space. In my Crypto Ninjas group, which is a group of people that we're training and helping build wealth through cryptocurrency, just helping each other out with that, since this is so new and there's so much innovation happening. It's a really lovely community feel. There are men and women, and the ages range from 29 up to 80.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is the new world. The new world is, we're going to include the generations, the genders, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever you do, however you identify yourself, everybody's in the tent.
You're included, and we're going to do this together, and we're going to have a great time, and we're going to celebrate each other's, diversity and differences, so that we can become richer at the end of it, not just financially, but certainly culturally and personally.
Yeah. Before we close, just one, the journalist in me here trying to get the balanced view. When we look at, and I literally made a bit of a list of pros and cons in preparation and preparing and researching crypto and so on. There's a very real concern that, there's environmental issues regarding all of these massive computers that are keeping all of this going and making sure, everything is legit, all of these different transactions and so on. Is there, now that you're really immersed in that area, is there, I don't know if you call it a movement, but is there an initiative? Because, it's very conscious, as we say, people like yourself who are in this space and wanting to be conscious traders. Is there a movement within there to make sure that some of that gets checked, or that people are finding other ways to power the computers, that there is, as we're growing, as we're doing good and creating money to do good, that we're pulling these other pieces into line?
Yeah, definitely. And it's happening twofold. It's happening in the computer industry itself. We're moving away from, microchips that are, the way that they were, into crystals, right? Which are a lot more sustainable, as well as the materials that the computers are operating, that they use to put together. Mm-hmm. There is also a concerted effort by many altcoin companies, as well as miners, to go into regenerative, renewable energy sources. This is a new energy, industry. New industry, yeah. And all new industries will just, they flourish in the early days, and then they start making the corrections and the innovation come to bring it to where society's values are. And at the moment, society's values are moving towards greater sustainability. So absolutely, yes.
Mm-hmm. This is good to know. And I think, you're the person for all of us to go to. You're going to get inundated when you get off this call. But before we close, well, as we close, I think, give us a sense of, how they can reach out to you regarding crypto specifically, the channel, and other ways that, the audience primarily for this show is women who are 45, 50, and who are, as we say, wanting to do good. They don't have a problem being themselves. They want to get out there and do it. How can those groups particularly, and anyone else is watching, reach out to you?
For sure, absolutely. Well, my website is nicolagrace.com. So everything is there. And the YouTube channel, which we would love you to subscribe to and subscribe to the playlist for beginners, is called Conscious Crypto Traders.
Okay.
And in all of the descriptions of our channel and the descriptions of our videos, there are links to the course that I do, the Crypto Ninjas course that I do to teach beginners, and our social media profiles and everything. So nicolagrace.com and Conscious Crypto Traders on YouTube.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicola. It's been fabulous to chat with you. I have many, many questions here. And it was just a joy to get into some of them with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the interview, click like and subscribe. And share this interview with any brat that you know. And don't forget to ring the bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we put out new content. See you soon.